face the clerk, sir. Right. Thank you, sir. Would you please take your seat? I have a few standard questions I'd like to ask you. I'm going to ask these same standard questions of every witness, whether they brought by the city or by the Church of Scientology. Sir, the first question is, are you appearing here today and testifying under oath voluntarily?
Yes.
Number two, have you been paid by anyone for your testimony other than expenses for coming to Clearwater?
No.
Three, do you have a lawsuit against the Church of Scientology?
Personally, no.
Does the Church of Scientology have a lawsuit against you?
Yes.
And number five, has anyone suggested to you that you should state anything but the truth, or has anyone suggested that you change your testimony for any reason?
No.
Okay, sir. Would you like to, I believe you have an outline to follow. Would you like to?
The practice, Mayor, will be the witness will seek to deliver a soliloquy or a statement that he feels are pertinent to the matters of his concern previously outlined, and then the Commission will undertake his business.
Thank you, Mr. Walters. Would you like to proceed, sir?
I think it would be best probably for me to tell you how I started Scientology and my history and record and experience in it, so that you'll have some know where I'm coming from. Otherwise, I'm sure some of the things I tell you just won't be believed. Excuse my nervousness. The first time I've been in public.
We're all a little bit tense there, Sue.
It's not easy to talk about it. And you'll see why when I tell you. Okay. Around 1970 in Las Vegas, Nevada, I was an casino executive at the Sands Hotel. Through an individual who I had known a few years earlier in Las Vegas, Frank Friedman, who is here at Clearwater. Presently. At that time, he was in Las Vegas. He introduced me to Scientology, told me, what it was. It was founded by this famous man who was a great man and a nuclear physicist and discovered the secrets to life, happiness, and that Frank, knowing that I was interested in bettering my life and questioning the world around us, asked me to come down to a mission that he had. The mission is a small Scientology organization. It's the lowest on the chain of command. He gave me some auditing. Auditing is a process where you sit in front of a Scientologist who uses a meter called an e-meter, and you are told that this e-meter can detect whatever's wrong with you and the reasons why they're wrong with you, and you can find a thing called engrams, which, as Hubbard says, are the sole source of all sickness and aberration. And I did that for a few weeks. I'd have to admit that the first introduction to Scientology was very nice. It usually is for most people. Later that mission closed, and they went to flag an organization called an org. At the Las Vegas org, I started a Dianetic course. Dianetics was introduced to me as the first book that L. Ron Hubbard read. We wrote, we were told to read it. And this told us, convinced us that this was could eradicate all illness, the sole source of operation, it would make you well and happy, high IQ, and total recall, and free meeting, and et cetera, et cetera. While at the Las Vegas org, within the first few months, I was asked to my course room was on the second floor. I was asked to go down in the back of the building in an office back there to meet some people in the Guardian's office. The Guardian's office it was explained to me. Well, I'll just tell you exactly how it occurred. I went down there and met, I guess I can notice any names or
Yes, you may. Will you put the mic a little bit closer to you? I'm just afraid something's in the back may not be able to hear you.
All right. I met Susan Reed. I don't know what her name is now, but I know Susan Reed.
Excuse me, sir. If at sometime during your conversation you'd like to take a break, we can do it. If you are getting a little worn out, I know you're going to be here doing a monologue for quite a bit of time. So if you need a break, let us know.
No. No, I would be fine with most people I know. We were waiting a long time just to get here.
Okay, proceed.
You just have to protect me when I leave the building.
Wait till he finishes his statement, then we'll ask him questions.
All right, so I met Susan Reed, who was the assistant guardian called AG. Maddie Reese, who was AGPRO, meaning assistant guardian, public relations officer. You'll hear names like officer all the time. I later found out it's a very Navy-orientated thing. And Chuck Reese, who was the intel officer for intelligence, later changed to call information. They invited me in and asked me how I was doing, and said they had heard something about me. To this day, I don't know from who, but said I was a sharp guy, and that you hear you're doing well, and you're interested in going clear, which is one of the early things that you're sold on, is to go clear. Clear would be free of all the aberration and engrams that I mentioned earlier. And as a clear, you would be, have genius IQ and total recall, and free of illness, et cetera, et cetera. And I was very much interested in doing that. So they invited me, actually, many times, 2 or 3 times a week, for a 3-4 week period. And generally what occurred was telling me the importance of the Guardian's Office, that it was an organization set up by L. Ron Hubbard to protect the Church of Scientology against the enemies that are out there. Enemies in 1970, early 71 were psychiatrists, doctors, government officials, mental health organizations. Those are ones explained to me in the meetings. It was explained to me how important it was that Scientology was to clear the planet, meaning make everyone clear in the city of Las Vegas and throughout the world, that these enemies had to be stopped, that these enemies were actually suppressive people, suppressive meaning that they were out to destroy the Church of Scientology, that these suppressives were people who were actually criminals themselves, and Ron knows this. we have to do, and for you to go clear, Eddie, we would need your help. So at the time, I'm embarrassed to say, I said, fine. I had grown up. I was not, as the normal citizen is, not most infatuated with public officials, and didn't really know much about them. So whatever they told me was believable. Anyway, a short time after that, I was invited down to the office, and a fellow was standing there called Bruce Raymond. Bruce Raymond, Susan Reed, and Mattie Reed told me to go for a walk with Bruce Raymond. I did. Bruce Raymond told me that he was well, first he started talking to me, and again, they were constantly always telling you, are you going clear, and how important it was to defeat the enemies. That whole routine I'd been seeing for weeks, and I said, yes, I'm willing to help. I want to clear the planet. I'll do whatever we can do. He told me that he was a special, agent for L. Ron Hubbard, Mary Sue Hubbard, and that he works through the Guardian's office, and that he works on the most sensitive and secret operations. You'll hear that word a lot. It's shortened called ops. In fact, throughout Scientology terminology, it's like the Navy. They cut everything into short terms. He said that he stressed on me the importance that serious things must be done to stop these enemies, and that these are vicious people.
You don't have an ice machine over here.
And that, so I said, fine, whatever way I can help, I would. So he was bragging to me about, again, the technology of L. Ron Hubbard, and that L. Ron Hubbard had this mental technology, that being the genius he was, he had developed the technology of espionage and intelligence, ferreting out the enemy, and so I said, fine, this is what it takes to go clear, if they're going to stop L. Ron Hubbard from helping all of us, I'll do what I can. He told me that, I asked him about the technology because I was interested. I was very technically orientated, as I was then and still am. He told me about the Guardian's office technology, such as, I'm sure you've heard, people who go to a lawyer and try to cause trouble for Scientology. And I said, yeah, I've heard that. He says, well, what we do is we, investigate them, and and it just stunned me. It was just further proof, as I was starting to see all along, that the insanities and the criminal actions were coming directly from Hubbard and his paranoia. I brought these people, when they came to me that day to the Guardian's office, I guess at the time I was just being a good, brainwashed Scientologist. You bring anybody who says anything wrong to the Guardian's office. And it was very interesting to watch the Guardian's office go berserk. And then I was thinking that probably 50% or 90% of what these people were saying were true. And then with the lies of the criminal actions that they were occurring, anyway, I threatened to go to the authorities to do something about it. They expelled me the next day. Artie Marin, one of the top church officials who's been down in Clearwater here many times, came and threatened me with the usual, I will be handled, and any trouble I cause L. Ron Hubbard, I will be taken care of. Others have done it in the past, and they're not around. And Eddie, you will be taken care of. He would go from, we had a 3-hour walk, he would go from threats to my life, and when I would get mad and say, great, let's go down to the police station right now. God damn it. Oh, excuse my language. I would say, let's go down to the police station. Because I was hot and scared. Then he would back up and start begging. And it was funny. He'd start telling me that if he doesn't handle me, that he'll be on the RPF and he'll be in trouble. And now he's begging. And then I'm telling him, well, Artie, if it's so nuts, why don't you tell the truth? And this thing's insane. And then when you do that, he would switch again to being tough and tell me that stuff, that, as you know, Eddie, stuff in pre-clears folders. Pre-clear meaning a person is not clear. Your folders are the most sensitive and intimate things that you have told your so-called minister, who most of them are not even ministers, they're young kids. Took a week's course. He told me, Eddie, we will, you know we've done it before, and we will expose you, and you know. Anyway, he went through the typical threats and actions that he knew that I knew of that the Guardian's Office participated through the years, which I can go into later if you're interested. Anyway, it was a make-break point in me in my life. I either had to stay in Scientology, because if you're in, you're either in, and you do these covert operations or whatever you want, you're a true believer, or you are the enemy. So I went to the FBI, me and about 6 or 7 others. And then, anyway, then I've been in Las Vegas still the last 2 years, under tremendous threats and harassment. Speaking up, they sued me. They threatened to sue me. They'll sue me for talking to you here today. I'll get sued in Las Vegas as part of some grand conspiracy. They'll have me linked up with you people. I've never seen any of this before, but that's what it'll be. Anyway, so as far as that, my training side was the highest you can go. Processing, I went clear to OT4. Although I'm familiar with all of the church's highly technical information and entirely familiar with the church's organization and operation.
1 minute, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, whatever interesting. I guess, should I go over some things that I found to be not nice conduct?
If our consultant feels they are pertinent to corporate policies in general, or Clearwater in particular, I believe we would like to hear from you. We would like to hear from you, or anything you'd like to add.
Mr. Mayor,
yes, sir.
Real important question directed to counsel. Has he been given any immunity, or been read his rights, Miranda rights, or anything like that, so that anything he says here can't be used against him later?
Yes, Mr. Burfield, that has been resolved. Immunity, no, but there have been discussions with public officials, both within Pinellas County and other places, with Mr. Walter, and those issues have been addressed.
In other words, criminal acts that he will speak of, that he participated in, he will not be
that issue has been resolved, that's correct.
Let's hear from Mr. Walters now. We can question Mr. Walters later on, but I'd like to have you finish your remarks, sir, as to business activities of the church relating to Clearwater and the country, or Clearwater in particular. Mr. Walters.
All right. Well, as I became trained, it was evident to me that everything you did was totally from policy. Any Scientologist tells you any different, I'm going to tell you he's lying. Everything you did was written from policy, and the policy had to be written by L. Ron Hubbard. In fact, it was a major crime in Scientology with severe penalties if you do not do anything except written by source. In fact, the word was, if it's not written by source, it isn't true.
Who's source?
Source is L. Ron Hubbard. Everybody else is secondary. Some of the policies that I found to be repugnant was, we can go into ethics. There's a division in every organization called the ethics officer. The ethics officer is presented as an individual who is supposed to help you clean up your transgressions so that you can become a better person. Again, as in most of the things in Scientology, what is presented in the actual operation are two different things. Ethics actually is a place to help ferret out the enemy by everything from penalties, degradation, to investigations on an e-meter. They will put individuals on an e-meter and tell them that they must come up with any crimes or anything they've ever thought bad about L. Ron Hubbard or the Church of Scientology. It is not for the protection of the individual. In fact, it's for the protection of Hubbard only. There are policies such as disconnect. Disconnect is very important because Scientology professes to help families, etc. It does not. The main thing that Scientology is involved in, Hubbard's paranoia, is the enemies that are out to get him. He has formed a money-making outfit that obviously has to be protected. In order to protect it, ethics is used against individuals. A suppressive person is a person that criticizes or is going to harm Scientology. Anybody associated with any of those people is called PTS, potential trouble source. It's interesting, even the term they give these individuals, potential trouble source, not to themselves, to Scientology. You are taught per policy that all illness and aberrative behavior, sickness, comes from being PTS, meaning connected to suppressive people. So when a person in Scientology is sick or ill, and I was told that we would treat him and make him well, ethics takes them and wants to know what suppressive they're involved in. If that suppressive is their mother or their father, because the young individual, and I know many, many cases of this, thousands, of an individual who is now feeling bad about being on course because he's never home. He talks a different language than his mother understands. She wants to know what he's involved in that cult. He now tells us in his confessional. The confessional takes these private things and gives them to the ethics officer. The ethics officer calls this individual and says, has your mother been criticizing the church? Yes. What questions is she asking you? And well, she asked me who L. Ron Hubbard is and how do you know he is and all this stuff. So then she's against the church, yes. Then can you see she's suppressive? And a person will, tend to see this. He is then told that he has to disconnect or handle his parent, which means he has to handle them. They would have to become a Scientologist. If they don't become a Scientologist, he has to disconnect from them because he's connected to a suppressive person. So you have people continually becoming upset and disconnected from their families. Now, if the individual won't do this, because, leaving your parents and family is not the easiest thing in the world. You get threatened with being expelled from Scientology and things put against you such as fair game. Fair game is a policy written up in the Church of Scientology. I have seen it. I know it's denied by Guardian's office, it's denied by Artie Marin and all these people, but I'm telling you, there is a policy. It's never been presented to the public, there is one, I've seen it, and it is practiced to this very day. Yeah. Those are the lower ethics conditions, meaning that if you are dangerous dangerous to the church, or even if you've done something wrong, like this individual having trouble with his family, if he does not disconnect from his mother, he could be put in enemy. Now, this may sound nutty to you, but you realize that in public thinking, and in the guardian's office thinking, he is an enemy because he's siding with his mother, who is questioning the Church of Scientology. And she probably has a doctor. Most people do, but the Scientologists, that's considered like earth-shattering. They will follow this woman around, and they found she went to a doctor, and interesting, it ties her back to a doctor, and the doctors are tied to the government. Ron is right again. He's just brilliant, this man. So, now these are taken very seriously. I mean, you know, the wording there doesn't really affect me that much, but there was a time when if you had put me in one of those conditions, I would have been, I would have done whatever it took to get out of it.
You'd have been disgraced?
What?
Disgraced if you were put in those conditions.
Disgraced. Other Scientologists will then be put in enemy if they talk to you.
Mr. Mayor, may the record reflect that we have posted on the easel a document or a blow-up of a document which will be introduced as evidence as Exhibit 1, which is copyrighted by L. Ron Hubbard and which states on it, for the record, enemy ST fair game may be deprived of property or injured by any means by any Scientologist without any discipline of the Scientologist, may be tricked, sued, or lied to, or destroyed.
Now, what he just read is true and is practice. Even though a few years later they put out an order saying that that was canceled. But if you look at the exact order, it says it's canceled, and the second line said, no actions or the way you handle these people are changed. The name was changed because the public has heard about it and they don't like it. This is very serious. A fair game person, another Scientologist, can do anything to him. He can lie about him, plant dope on him, use any of his confidential things against him. He can be tricked, sued. He will, whatever is needed to be done to stop it. I have seen this done to individuals. I've seen individuals go into hiding over it. Many are still out there. The Church of Scientology lists them as part of their roles. These guys haven't been in church for years because they're afraid of their lives. These low ethics conditions are very degrading. I mean, look at the names of them. They're not called "you're a bad boy," liability, treason, doubt. Can you imagine a young man who spends 2 or 3 years studying all day long, giving every energy to his church, and then his mother doesn't like the church, so now he's called enemy to L. Ron Hubbard, and is told that the enemy will be handled, and you'll either be one of us or we will handle you, and it'll be done.
May I interrupt, Mayor?
Yeah, you can ask questions.
Well, I wanted you to complete your thought, and then we will ask you questions. And if you've kind of completed your scenario as you know it at this point, then I will...
Well, let me just say this. Otherwise, a lot of what I say or won't be understood. Scientology, like everything, is not totally bad. There's some technology in it that is good. You're not going to have people like myself who are not complete idiots. Any of your sons or daughters, if they went into the first few courses, I'll tell you, they would like them. You're not asked to dress up in fancy robes. You don't cut your hair. You don't go singing songs. You don't go to the airport and solicit donations. In other words, it is not the appearance of a cult. It appears to be a very technical solution and education on the theory of life, etc. The general public gets involved in that, and they get fleeced for their money. The staff member who works on staff, again, are usually more brainwashed, more into working hard for Hubbard, A lot of them are good, decent people, working very hard for practically no pay, working 14, 15 hours a day, doing the slightest thing wrong and being beaten or thrown in the hole or many other things that subject to degradation, financial loss and suits, etc. Anyway, they're just young, decent people. If they weren't in Scientology, I believe a lot of them would be in the Peace Corps or something like that. Then you have the higher officials of the church. Some of them are decent people, just brainwashed on Scientology and Hubbard. Others are out-and-out criminals who are participating in criminal acts years ago, and I believe are probably doing it up to this day and probably here in Clearwater. Then you have the Guardian's Office, which is a separate outfit, who is it's sort of on the outside of Scientology, but it protects Scientology and actually runs it. It's hard to explain it. The best example, which is very real to me, is like you have Hitler and the troops, which is the Sea Org, and then you have the Gestapo, which is the Guardian's Office. And the fear and the actual running of Scientology is actually from the Guardian's Office. The Guardian's Office ranges anywhere from some young, new individuals who really don't know very much. Some probably don't even believe that they did break into the federal buildings or any of that stuff, and probably believe I never was in Scientology, whatever they're told about me. And then you have further above them who are people who are inclined to become criminals, and the type of people that would go in the SS in Germany. I mean, and then in the higher ups of the Guardian's Office, you have people that, from my experience, turn out to be criminals and people in hatred and fear of the citizens throughout the land.
Are you prepared to answer or discuss questions about specific criminal activity?
I'll answer any question you ask.
Would you like to volunteer anything specifically, or would you like us to...
I'll volunteer some. If you
specifically relating to Clearwater, if you know anything about that.
Read it.
The chair has the option to lead or offer to yield, and then I'm going to go from my right on down, and everyone will get a chance to speak and to lead off.
I'm just going to say something along with what you're saying. Really, we want to know some of the policies of the organization that he's been part of that you could give us an idea.
Well, I mean, there was policies, like the attacker, I forget the exact name of it. It's the policy that we all studied. Scientology denies it, but I've seen it. And we are thoroughly indoctrinated on this, that we are to totally attack, investigate any group that dares criticize or investigate Scientology.
Do you know anyone, would this be happening currently in Clearwater with any of myself, my colleagues, or any elected or appointed city official?
I can promise you it's occurring. I will give you experiences if you're interested in Las Vegas. I will tell you how the tech works, and I can promise you that it's being applied here.
For my own benefit, since I am one of the principals here, I'd like to know how it works.
All right. All right. Oh, is that up there? All right. Hubbard believes that there are enemies out to get him. He also believes that the enemies who attack Scientology are actually criminals themselves. As I found out later, almost everything Scientology is in fear of, turns out that's exactly what they do. But anyway, so that the technology, the Guardian's Office technology is this. Whenever somebody criticizes or attacks, and you always hear the words like attack, it's never, speaks badly, or it's always attack and destroy. It's very military. And the Guardian's Office goes into operation. The Guardian's Office has, well, the three that I'm familiar with is the Public Relations Bureau, the Intelligence Bureau, and then the AG person herself. Their job is to operate on two fronts. One, publicly, well, first the intelligence operation goes into the thing. If a city official, for example, I'll give you specifics. Seems funny saying it. If I started, I better keep going.
All right, sir.
Well, I'll give you an example. In Las Vegas, there's a fellow called Otto Ravenholz, who was the director of public health, director of mental health, something like that. He, like you people, thought that the city ought to look into Scientology and who are these young kids giving auditing, and are they trained counselors, and are they, who are they? Are they administering mental health, which is the title of Ron's book, Dynamics, Science of Mental Health? The Guardian's office went berserk. So they, in telexes and in written coded messages to Los Angeles, which was the headquarters then, now your headquarters is here in Clearwater, they designed a program to handle. Another thing, everything done in Scientology is written up as a program first. There has since been a downfall because when the FBI raided, they got all this. But none of this stuff is done because some individual did it on his own. I don't care what Artie Marin tells you, or Heber Jentz, or one of these other guys who will do whatever it takes to tell you whatever Hubbard wants them to tell you about Scientology. They don't do anything without a planned operation. The operation then was to, the first thing that always happens is you covertly investigate the individual, the city official. Not a Ravenholz thing, it was Chuck Reese. Chuck Reese then started following him around day and night. The idea is to get information. You start a file on them. I promise you there are files in the Guardian's office here on every one of you individuals. You follow them around, you follow where they go, what Otto Ravenholz, if he stopped to have a drink, the guy sitting next to him was Chuck Reese. They listened to his conversations. Because of L. Ron Hubbard's technology, they listened for what they call buttons or psychological things, like if Otto Ravenholz would tell a dirty joke or a kid about girls, which is from what I understand is what he kidded about. The next operation is to use that against him. The operation was to plant a girl on Otto Ravenholz, get something indiscretions done, and hold it in the folder to expose him when needed.
May I interrupt at this point, Mr. Mayor? Just to simply say that rather than interrupt the witness's testimony, we will be introducing documents that pertain to the program the witness referred to. But I will wait until the end of the testimony, at the end of the questioning, and we will be introducing those operations and programs and putting them on the overhead projector.
I'd like to ask a few questions, then I'd like to go on to my colleague to the right, and I'll start off. You have apparently taken a large chance to come here today, and you are obviously nervous, and you were giving information that they wouldn't like to have out. How do you think that you'll be characterized by tomorrow by the Scientologists due to your presence and your here today?
The policy says I will be suppressive, subject to fair game. To fit into the technology of Scientology, I will be made a suppressive who is in conspiracy with you people, and we are all in a conspiracy with the government and with some monsters from outer space whose real job is to do in Hubbard and all religions in the world. And 99% of all Scientologists will believe exactly. They will not be allowed to talk to me. If they are, they will be put in enemy. The public will be told.
That's what I know. You're going to apparently, if it holds true to form, you're going to be discredited.
Oh, yes. They have already done that in Las Vegas.
What are they going to say about you? You might as well give me a preview.
I told you about what the Intelligence Bureau does in the Guardian's office, right?
Yes, sir.
Investigate city officials, district attorney's office better be those that I have personal knowledge of all of this. I don't care what they tell you. I will testify in any law court to it. Anyway, now when that is done, after all that is done, then the Public Relations Bureau goes to work. They will use this evidence against the individuals, or they will make evidence that from their surveys of the city fits the tone of the city. It's very cleverly done, I'm telling you. For example, in Las Vegas, if the city was afraid of crime, then they would say, Eddie Walters is speaking, yes, but did you know he's a criminal? And that is what you want to get rid of, people like Eddie Walters. He is a criminal, and we in the church do not know anything about what he's saying. And these people, and if you press them, they'll say, well, some former Scientologist, did something on their own, that's it. Eddie Walters is a person that's been expelled from the church. What they will tell the people in the church is different than they will tell you. They will tell the citizens tomorrow that I have probably never been in the Church of Scientology.
How long have you been in the Church of Scientology, and when did you leave?
I started on May. I'm started in around late 1970. There are records to prove all of this. And I was in until March of 1979. And I spent full time. When I was there, as I told you, I took every technical course given.
What do you... are the Guardians in Clearwater, and are they carrying out covert activities within Clearwater now, to your knowledge?
Well, I cannot speak specifically to what they're doing for the simple reason I don't even know who's here at the moment. But I can tell you, if they're good GO members, they better be doing it, or they'll get somebody who will. Hubbard does not put up with people like yourselves asking or investigating Scientology. I mean, your first thing I read about Mayor Gazaris being trapped or put in a thing, that's just normal tech. I mean, they would have done that to Otto Ravenholt. I mean,
what is tech? You keep talking about tech and the class of 8. Those are two I'm not familiar with.
Tech is technology. See, L. Ron Hubbard professes to have the technology of the world in the mind. And that's what you study in Scientology. So you are taught how the world thinks, what the mind is made up, what causes all illnesses, what causes all irrational behavior. You are taught why public officials like yourselves will probably do hearings like this. We're taught that you are suppressive and aberrated and really have hidden crimes. Now, I'm not telling you that some individual tells me this. This is the policy of this. It's to attack the attackers, and attackers are doing it because of your own crimes. And that is policy written by L. Ron Hubbard, and the Guardian's office will carry it out.
Were you expelled, or did you just quit?
I was expelled. Artie Marin threatened me in the sense of that, if I would back off and go quietly away, I'm sure that I possibly wouldn't have been expelled. I don't know. It was coming to a head. And he knew it, and I knew it.
Where does the money come from to indulge or operate covert activities with respect to this commission or to governmental agencies? You have to hire detectives, or he needs cash. Who gives you that money?
The Scientologists who are getting this auditing at very high prices, designed to keep them going continually from one step to another. There's always a higher step. There's always more illnesses that you have and more reasons that Ron has just discovered. The money comes from there. And I would tell you, quite frankly, most all the money for probably the covert activities, the way I would understand it when I was in, what now is being raised in your city of Clearwater. You have Fort Harrison here, where the people that are brainwashed the most in Scientology are sent here to be, in my opinion, fleeced. In fact, all the high secret science fiction levels are done here in Clearwater.
Do you think that the average young person that's walking around the street that's paying this amount of money to learn the truth as they perceive it, they know that their money is being spent to indulge in operations to embarrass local officials or to break into offices?
No, they don't. The average Scientologist does not read newspapers that are slowly told to him. I'm sure you'll find that the pre-clearers and the people getting counseling at Fort Harrison will not attend these, because if they didn't heard what I said, you've had 300 or 400 people filing new suits. No, the average Scientologist does not know about it. Some of even the higher-ups. It depends what level you're talking about. Covert operations are done entirely in the Guardian's office. The Guardian's office operates like the Gestapo in Germany, totally secret. They do not explain or tell what they do. They explain, though, that things are being done, but they do not say how.
I'm sure my colleagues have a lot of questions, too. I just want to ask you one or two more. Didn't you ever question that this man was he, his education, his background, as far as being a nuclear physicist and be able to heal people, didn't you ever question that, or his war record?
Quite frankly, in the beginning, no. I mean, we were showed things that he was. It's mentioned in books. Any lectures that we got, we were told that. He himself.
True. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Just could you expand a little bit on what we were told about the background of Hubbard?
Well, that he was a doctor of philosophy. He was a graduate of George Washington University. That he was one of the first nuclear physicists. That he was a great humanitarian. That he was an engineer. That he was
How many college degrees does he have, and what school did he attend to achieve this?
While I was in Scientology?
Yes.
Oh.
Is he a nuclear physicist? Is he an engineer?
Well, I didn't find any of that out until I left Scientology. I didn't find any of that. See, you must understand, I left Scientology because I was like a surgeon in a hospital. I was the top surgeon in the hospital, finding out my own hospital was crooked, and then even the operations were done. I didn't find out that much about Hubbard until I left. If I had known that, I would have left first year. Probably 90% of them in there would.
If you had not been impressed by his background, would you have gone into?
Absolutely not. I mean, I'm not, it's embarrassing, but I'm not totally an idiot. I was a casino executive. I'm aware of scams. I'm not the most innocent individual in the world. If he didn't have doctor's degrees and a philosopher and a nuclear physicist to back up the theories that he was giving us on communication and the like, which are very technical, I wouldn't give them, I'd give them $35,000, $40,000.
Mr. Garvey, you have apparently the floor. Why don't you keep it and then use it until you yield? Then we'll go down to Mr. Hatchett and go down the row, and the next witness will start with Mr. Hatchett and go down the row. So Mrs. Garvey has the floor.
When did you discover that they were using these confessions for fair game policy?
Confessions, I found that when I used to hang around the Guardian's office in Las Vegas. Because remember, I was a field intelligence agent. I had a code name of Hustler. When the FBI broke in, I hear there are documents that even have my name on it. It's terrible to say, but I'm even glad they do, because Scientology tells everybody everything I'm telling you is a lie, but I'm telling you it isn't. My code name was Hustler, and you will find operations of things that I was involved in those files. Anyway, what was the exact question again? I'm sorry.
When did you discover they were using confessions for other than confidential?
I was on the technical line, meaning I was an auditor and helped train other auditors to give these people auditing. The Guardian's office would come to me on a regular basis. Whenever an individual was causing a flat means he was mad, upset, saying things that are suppressive, like I'm going to my lawyer or I'm going to officials. They would come and want his folder, which I'm ashamed to say I would give him at the time. And they would go through his folder and make a list of any of his sexual improprieties, or because I've seen many of these lists. They would be sexual or or things that he has done that he feels bad about. And in fact, it was amazing. Now I look back, the list that they would write up tells you more about them than it does the individual. And that this would be, he would be confronted with this or told that it would be exposed. It wasn't done on a regular basis through the years. It was done entirely up until the latest was in 1977 or 78, I forget exactly when Bruce Hamilton, who was the intelligence agent, he replaced Chuck Reese in Las Vegas, came to me for folders on orders of right here in Clearwater.
Do you know who they were from personally? I mean, who told him to pick?
Bruce, I'll tell you exactly what occurred. Is that what you mean? Bruce Hamilton came to me. I was the CS, meaning I case supervised. I supervised the auditing that the auditor did on the individual. I was the top man on that line. So I had the folders on my desk. My job was to make sure the auditing was done exactly the way L. Ron Hubbard wants it to be done. Although you slowly realize that it has to be done the way the Guardian's Office wants it to be done, or you don't CS. Anyway, Bruce Hamilton came to me, and in half bragging and half his latest thing, he was looking for some individual that he knew was in Las Vegas, that through a plant or an informant that they had at the North Las Vegas Police Department, because one of the technologies of the Guardian's Office is to infiltrate city officials' offices, district attorneys' offices, Better Business Bureau, and the police. Well, they apparently, I guess from the way he talked, already had an informant or a plant in the North Las Vegas Police Department, and he was saying that they were getting evidence that was either being given to Interpol, you know, the old boo-boo again, or that Interpol was giving to the North Las Vegas Police Department, or I didn't understand exactly. From the evidence given, he wanted to know, did I have anybody that had been to Flag, and they think he had been to Clearwater and got some auditing here in Clearwater, and he wanted to know if I had a body would fit above OT3, been to Clearwater, been to Flag, was on staff at Flag, and he wanted his folders so that they could be sent. I, at this time, was starting to rebel against a lot of this, and I said I did not want to participate in this Gestapo thing. He threatened me with those lower penalties, that I'd be an enemy subject to fair game, things like R245, which is a process. I don't know if you ever heard of R245, but it's a process.
Explain it, please.
Well, there are processes. I mean, routine to go clear and exteriorize. Exteriorize, you pay a lot of money on the belief that you will be able to leave your head and leave your body and go to Paris or anyplace else. And
Paris?
Paris, anywhere. I mean, whatever.
No limit.
Whatever you say, they match it. You know what I mean? If you're ill, well, that's because you're in your body. When you leave your body, you won't be ill, etc. You know. If you've got arthritis, well, if you leave your body, you won't have arthritis. If you don't have an IQ, well, if you leave your body, the spiritual beings have high IQ. It's the answer to everything. And when Hubbard has handled, he brags about his early enemies with a process. Oh, the processes are called R216 will be one process. R217 will be another one. Well, R245 means that you shoot the person in the head, which is forced exteriorization, meaning he leaves his body whether he wants to or not. This may sound, nutty to you, but I promise you he's not kidding.
Did that worry you when you consider your own file?
It worries every Scientologist and everybody that'll come here before you.
Which goes back to a question, I guess, that I have. Why are you here?
Probably three reasons. One, I finally became disillusioned with the technology, which is what I was interested in. I knew of the crimes and all that, but I thought that was for a good purpose and that it might be terrible, but is that what you have to do to straighten out society? The technology was not workable. The people higher at the top, who, remember, people at the bottom are paying large amounts of money to become better more honorable, more ethical, more righteous at the top, right? But I knew the guys at the top were breaking into the federal buildings. And from knowing them personally and counseling, they were more psychotic than the new people. So obviously the tech did not make you more sane. It made you more of a brainwashed Scientologist and more into the paranoia that Hubbard personally has against officials. So I left originally for that. The second reason I left is because it was the major turning point in my life. I either had to become a Scientologist, and you could see that Scientology was going to have what they call a war, and the war was either defeat the enemy, which I was not interested in the way the Guardian's office was interested in doing that, or I had to become a citizen. A citizen, meaning I found out that Hubbard was nuts, and the tech was nuts, and the science fiction of OT3 and space planets and Xeno and BTs, your body's made up of body thetans and all the science fiction they tell the higher-ups. I had a dilemma. I was left with, if I leave Scientology, if I become a citizen, I can't live with you people because you're suppressive and out to hurt people. So the turning point was, I'll become a citizen. I went to the FBI, figuring that they would grab me, and I had heard that they were suppressive and they were anti-religious and all these things. It turned out to be decent people. In fact, if anything, very conservative, and half the stuff, like I tell you, they took with a grain of salt. But apparently they also knew things about Hubbard and things that I didn't know. The third reason that I came here to Clearwater, because I don't relish...
Gave you the courage to do it.
To come to Clearwater is because I don't relish the publicity and the harassment and possible danger my life will be in. But this may sound shocking to you, but the correlation and the example between Scientology and Reverend Jones in Guyana is amazingly similar. I saw the TV show as a person totally inside of Scientology, totally familiar with the technology. I was astounded how Reverend Jones did the exact same things Hubbard did. And that these people closest to him, brainwashed thoroughly, are totally dedicated to him. I mean, they are dedicated to him. The people in the Sea Org, which to work at Fort Harrison here, in Clearwater, which is the top of the line, are joining the Sea Org. If Hubbard decides to leave this planet, he is going to take these other these kids in the Sea Org. I don't care what lies they tell you. I'll get you people who are in Scientology who tell you I'm telling you the truth. These kids have signed billion-year contracts. Right here. Most all your staff at Fort Harrison right here have signed billion-year contracts. They are psychologically contracted and addicted to Scientology. They will take the Kool-Aid. It won't be Kool-Aid, but it will be this beautiful new process, and the idea was to meet Hubbard on another planet. It was looking at that I decided to come here, because if somebody close to Jones had spoken up, although I know many people wouldn't believe, and you probably won't believe half the things I'm telling you, but I'd rather speak up than reading about what will happen in ensuing months. Because you people have started an investigation into Scientology that's going to create total paranoia. And Hubbard will not treat this lightly. And if he decides, because he's basically a coward, if he decides to leave, his Guardian's office will fight. Those kids, they're just automatic zombies. They'll fight. He will leave. Many of his dedicated followers, including many of your staff, and I'm talking about 200 and 300, I don't know how many you have on staff here, the insiders, they will go with him on the pretext, especially everybody above OT3 that thinks he's filled with body thetans, and his job was to meet Hubbard on another planet. If I can help that stop happening.
Just one last question. I'll let the other ones go. You paid a great deal of money to take these courses. What were you paid to do your job to keep you in there?
Nothing. I got no pay all the time I was on courses. In fact, I audited other people at high prices for Scientology. And when you're training, like you will come in to get processing for me, and you don't even know that I'm being trained while I'm giving it to you. Every day I audit you, and somebody is correcting me, no, you screwed this up, you did this, and you're paying $200 and $300 an hour, and that's what's done here at Clearwater, and I'm being trained. Later on, I did some counseling in the field, auditing in the field myself.
Which you got paid for?
Yes, yeah, and they
But
paid
you never paid while you're doing field investigation or anything like that?
No, and the church really resented that, for me leaving the org and auditing on my own. Right. Because, see, they tell you all these things when you first come in, and you can do all this. I took all my courses based on that I can become a professional auditor and be a boon to mankind and audit people like you. And as soon as I did it, they went berserk and thought I was connected with Interpol and every other thing.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Hatchett.
Thank you, Mr. Waldman. Do you have any evidence as to whether Mr. Ron Hubbard is alive or dead?
Exact evidence? No. No. I have a pretty good experienced opinion. If he dies, you'll know it.
All right. Next question is, thank you for your answers to Ms. Carver's question, but I wish to go just a little further. Do you have evidence, or were you ever part of the impounding of people, which I call kidnapping internally?
Well, it's a common practice in ethics to do that. What they do is, a person will become very upset, like that individual I told you that he will not disconnect from his mother, and now his mother and father are getting upset, and the father will say, I am going to the police. I'm going to Better Business Bureau. He now goes into usually a psychological heavy experience because he's torn between the teachings of Hubbard and his family. He goes PTS and becomes dangerous. They're thinking if the father says things like, I'm taking my son to a lawyer, they will then grab that son, and under the pretext of religion or that he is going berserk or having a serious upset, they will lock him in a room and force on him auditing for his own good. Or if they're really there is to make sure that he does not leave the building. In fact, people in lower ethics conditions can't even leave the building. They can't leave the building. It doesn't matter whether you have a family or not. I have personal experience of many young kids sweeping floors for days until they said, yes, I am a bad boy, Ron is right, I am wrong, I'll never talk to my parents again.
Thank you. Next question, please. Upon taking all these courses, were there anything like a contract you signed for those courses for guarantees? You know, like cure out your ears when you read the Dynetics course. You have to sign that they guaranteed you to be cured in any way throughout your courses.
Yes, you can pick up the book Dynetics on down here at Fort Harrison. Dynetics is told to you, and if you read it, is professed as being the sole reason for all sickness and aberration, and that if I would get Dynetic auditing, I would never be sick or ill again. Saying that if I would become an auditor, I would learn the technology of how Hubbard did that. So they got me coming and going. I got the auditing, and then they asked me, would you like to get the technology? And I paid for that too. And I did that all the way to the top.
My last question, thank you. I see in your notes here that there are some Clearwater hot prospects that they wish to, approach and get into Scientology. Was that technique used in Las Vegas when you were active?
Yes.
How did that come about?
Now, which exact thing are you talking about?
Hot prospects from other churches. Members in the Scientology.
Oh, yeah. A prospect, see, every week you sit, and the finance people sit and decide which of the people that are coming in have the money, how much they have and how much they're going to get. A person, like who comes to Clearwater, who has we'll say $80,000, he would be called a hot prospect, meaning we can get most of what we can from him. And they would do a financial interview with him, talk to him, and they'll ask questions that him at the time he doesn't even understand. They'll say, good, and where are you from? Cleveland, and you own a home in Cleveland? Good, and do you have any stocks? And I promise you that halfway through him doing Ned for OT or one of these other science fiction levels down here at Clearwater, they will then tell him that he needs to get more of it, and it will cost him another $80,000. And they will be glad to show him how he can sell his home, and they will gladly do this. And I know people that have come to Clearwater and done exactly that.
Thank you. I'll pause so you can go on.
Thank you. Mr. Schumer, do you have any questions? You may participate too. You are the manager.
Mayor, I do have a couple of questions I wanted to ask. Mr. Walters, were you personally involved? I think you answered this, but I'd like for clarification on the record. Were you personally involved in criminal activities as you saw, on behalf of the church, and who told you to do those?
Yes, I was in some, and I was told to do that by, I'll tell you exact names, by Bruce Raymond of the Guardian's Office, who worked for L. Ron Hubbard and Mary Sue Hubbard through directions from here in Clearwater, where L. Ron Hubbard was residing at the time. I was told to do things by Susan Reed in Las Vegas, Madeline Reese in Las Vegas, the AGPRO, the Assistant Guardian Public Relations Officer, Chuck Reese, who was the intelligence officer, Artie Marin, who was United States AGPRO.
These particular instructions that you received, did they follow normal policy of the church, or were they...
Exact policy of the church. The policy always is the same. For example, do you want a specific?
Yes, sir.
Right. It's going to be embarrassing to some people in Las Vegas.
Don't worry about them.
Well, I have to go back.
Well, you should worry about them.
Worry about the people in Clearwater that might have this happen to them soon.
That's exactly right. The Better Business Bureau, people were sent in to steal things from their files. I have personal knowledge of it. I was the one who cased the place. They were also to put things in their files. Steal something from the Review Journal, a newspaper in Las Vegas. Also an attempt to burglarize their, what they called a hot file. They didn't know what was in it, but they felt that Interpol or the police or the city officials had evidence on Scientology, and they felt the guy was going to write a story on it. And through plans they already had there, they knew it was in a file, and they asked me if I would go in and burglarize a file. I wouldn't do it. They asked me to secretly tape record the conversations of Dr. William O'Gorman, who was the chief psychiatrist or something in Las Vegas. He was president of the Psychiatric Association there, very well-respected man. We would go into his office and talk to him, try to find out things about him and his past, and tape record them to be used later against him. But a complete harassment program was done against him. It was written up, including, which will be done, I would suggest, and I would think if the tech is still the same, I'm sure it is, to your city officials. You will be followed. You will be called late at night. You will be sent what we call dead agent information, meaning information that they hope you bring up that will dead agent you. Does that make sense to you?
Not quite to me.
All right. This is one of Hubbard's, at the time I thought it was very clever. All right, let's say Mr. Hatchett, they would say, well, Mr. Hatchett is a black man, and we followed him around, we know him pretty well now, you will be sent a letter by someone professing about how he just wants to let you know that how what a great job you're doing in the city and what a fine member you are and thing, and in one or two lines in there, and we do not believe what, let's say, Mr. Calderbank. We don't believe what Mr. Calderbank says about people in your race, and we just want you to know we think you're okay. Knowing that you'll read the letter and say, Calderbank said this about me? Interesting.
Yeah.
And this will create dissension among you, and it's a complete program. In fact, he will be sent a letter too.
Okay.
Sir, with I think you indicated that your experience has mainly been in California and also in Las Vegas. The organizational structure, which is set up there in the church, how does that relate to the rest of the structure of the organization throughout the entire world?
Okay.
Is it different, or is it special, or what?
No, it's exactly the same. It's a very rigid run organization set up by L. Ron Hubbard. The lowest is the missions that are in cities throughout the United States. They appear to be nice places. They have lower level tech. They have none of the espionage in it. They look like very nice places to get your sons and daughters in. They appear very nice. Above that is an organization. There are orgs in most of the major cities of the United States. The organization is the next higher level of tech. It also gets into the brainwashing concerning the paranoia of the enemies of the church. Above the organization, the headquarters for the United States for a long time was California, for the Guardian's office. And since 1976 and up to present time, it is here at Flag in Clearwater. Flag is the home of L. Ron Hubbard. It is also, for every Scientologist, it is where all the orders come from.
Okay, I want to ask you one quick one. If Mr. Hubbard dies for any reason, let's say he dies of old age eventually,
Is mind to leave his body?
I don't really care about his mind leaving his body, but do you think there might be any suicides in Clearwater because of or worldwide, because the people that are close to him believe in him that much?
Yes, I do. That's one of the main reasons I'm here. I'm not telling anything new. You citizens haven't heard any of this, but I think the federal government's familiar with it, and some other cities are. But one of the main reasons I'm here is because when Hubbard leaves, he...
All right, I've been advised this area might be a little touchy, and I may have gone a little too far that question, so I will ask you to stop answering that question, because that may have something to do with faith, and therefore we shouldn't get into that.
Well, let me say this.
That is not really the issue. What we're here today to do the faith. We're here primarily for business activities. I'd like to just say, how would you have us get this information out to the local Scientologists or the worldwide or national Scientologists that are probably decent people that are just being taken into this? And then I'll turn the meeting over to Mr. Calderbank, who has some questions to you too.
Well, you can't. The internal policies won't operate like that. The Scientologists who are giving their money and the staff that are working at, let's say, Fort Harrison, they cannot, it is part of technology. They cannot confront me. I am a suppressor. That if they see or talk to me, weird things will happen to their minds and they will be doomed.
Can they read the newspaper tomorrow?
I don't know what the local plan is here in Las Vegas. They are told, to stay away from all those things because they're nothing but lies. I have not seen the plan for Fort Harrison. I guarantee you won't see your Fort Harrison PCs at this hearing. The only ones here will be Guardian's office or public relations people.
RPF, what is that?
Rehabilitation Project Force. That is a disciplinarian level when a person is not following the written policy and intentions of L. Ron Hubbard, or he fails in any way to either get people's money or brainwash them or handles somebody who goes to an official, he is then put in a very degraded position, which will be like he is stripped of, whatever titles he has. He must wear dirty old clothes, dirty rag. He must clean floors and sewers and things like that until he realizes how degraded he is. And when he does that, he's allowed then to come back. During that time, he's not allowed to talk to anyone. No Scientologist can talk to him. He is treated in a degraded manner. It's technology. In other words, if you treat him in a degraded manner, he will realize he's degraded and realize how strong Hubbard is. Like I said, when I saw that television thing on Reverend Jones, I was amazed that Jones had those kids write up every bad thought they had to him. These Dear Daddy letters, that's the exact same phenomenon. I'll tell you, a Scientologist, after a few years, will be glad to scrub floors. I mean, it's that weird. I mean, it's not like he thinks it's bad. He's glad to do it because, wow, I've told my bad thoughts I must have. If Scientology is not doing well, I must have them. It can't be Ron. He's a genius, so I must have them. And he will search until he has them, or he has to make them up, or they're forced on him. And it's the only way he can get back in.
And that may have something more to do with faith, and we're trying to keep away from that specifically. Mr. Kolobank, do you have any questions?
Yeah. Mr. Walters, thank you for coming. Appreciate seeing you here. And I'm interested, number one, you said that when you leave here, you'll feel threatened. And you talked about policies. One is R245, or exteriorization. Basically, that's shooting a person in the head. Is this a policy in the church that is read and open to most members?
Yes, it's R245 is even in one of the most popular books.
Would then the members follow this policy?
Well,
either told to or induced to?
Well, now, you can't say just members. It depends on the level. A regular staff member? No. A new person giving his money? No. A lower level guardian's office? No. A higher level guardian's office? Yes. A person directly connected to the safety of L. Ron Hubbard. The inner core will do anything that it takes.
Getting back to your fear, Artie Marin, he was also the one that was the last one that were reputed to see Quentin Hubbard before Mr. Hubbard died mysteriously.
Yes.
Did he at any time threaten you?
Did he threaten me, Artie Marin? Yes, he did.
Did he threaten you with your life?
Yes, he did.
And that gets down to criminal activities and policies. Are these policies followed? You gave a lot of examples about Las Vegas, and these are policies that are carried out and followed by members. Are these policies in every structure set up by Scientology? Are these policies followed by Scientologists throughout the country?
Yes, in every organization where there is a guardian's office follows guardian's office policy.
So the
seek out and destroy the enemy.
Structure in L.A. and the structure in Las Vegas and the structure in Clearwater are the same.
Exactly.
They follow the same policies.
Exactly.
One of these policies is the fair game policy, and that tells you to lie, cheat, even destroy other people. At any time, did you take part or know of people that participate in the fair game policy?
I personally did not get involved in destroying anybody. I wouldn't do that. I've heard that it's done. I personally have not seen it. But listen, I gave people's folders to the guardian's office to be used against them. That's destroying them psychologically and emotionally. And let me tell you, those people never spoke up again.
Were those break-ins that you discussed part of the fair game policy or as a result of this policy?
Yes. See, in the guardian's office, the fair game means you do whatever it has to do.
And you've seen criminal activities and participated in these criminal activities following out the policy, which is a structure of the entire church.
Right.
Did you talk to other Scientologists and participate in groups of Scientologists that, as their goal, carried out fair game policy on enemies or break-ins or other criminal activities?
Yes, there are others who...
Did you know at the time that this could be considered a conspiracy or a conspiratorial act to take away someone else's civil rights?
Oh, no, we didn't know any of that.
But it was part of the church policy that you followed.
Yes.
Did you ever see people held against their will as part of the church doctrine, people that may be discontent with policies of disconnect? In other words, not being able to see any member of their family or communicate with any member of their family again?
Many times.
Did you ever participate in it?
Yes.
Did you ever participate in framing someone, or to give a better analogy, committing criminal acts against the person so that their credibility would be destroyed in the eyes of either the public or investigators that were looking into Scientology?
Depends what level of framing. I gave up folders to be used against individuals.
You talked about planting dope and then calling the police and then having the person arrested.
I didn't do that, but it was done in Las Vegas as part of normal Guardian's Office thing, and I know of it.
Can you give me one instance?
All right.
Could you give an instance at another investigation if given time to think?
Oh, yeah.
Names, places?
Yeah, I'm willing to go to court and tell everything. Oh, yeah.
In Las Vegas, did you see this happen at all?
Oh, yeah, against the legislators.
Because of this policy, the actual structure or corporate policy of this group, is that same policy that induced people to criminal activities in L.A. and Las Vegas that you personally witnessed, that you participated in?
Excuse me.
Does that happen here?
You're asking good questions, but give the man a chance to answer it, and you know.
Okay, get on it.
Get on with it, and he may have to have a recall of 7-10 years ago. So give him a little more chance.
All right.
Have you seen it and participated in it? Can you give us an example where policy induced people into criminal activities?
Yes. I know of a new person that came in. I can't think of her name now. A young girl was asked to plant dope on somebody. Susan Reed had recruited her. She was later kicked out because apparently she did it and was protested. I don't know who they laid it on. They planted something on Otto Ravenholz that turned publicity against him. I was not personally involved in that. I was listening to the setup of it, and then later listened to how well it went. When the Nevada legislature, 72 or 73, you could check the files back then, was going to, they were thinking of licensing counselors. In other words, why should these young kids be giving so-called auditing when they had no training or no, they weren't licensed. They should be licensed counselors. There were a few legislators or senators or whatever you call them who were going to pass a bill, I believe, in the Nevada legislature. The Guardian's Office started following these people around, investigating them. For 2 nights before the hearing up in Carson City, they were called day and night. There was great joy over some woman, councilman or some name like that, but she was a woman who was driven almost to the point of hysteria because they called her day and night. It was Chuck Reese's job to do that. He bragged about and laughed about he didn't get any sleep either, calling this woman day and night, saying things to her, keeping her totally. And we laughed that by the time she got to Carson City, it was late, she'd be berserk herself.
You mentioned
these are normal activities for the Guardian's Office.
And these activities are as a result of policy that's actually written?
Yes, it's not given to the general Scientologists. They don't see it. It's called Guardian Office policy. You will have it before 76, I would see it right in the Guardian's Office there. And in Los Angeles, and you have it here. But since the raid in 1976 by the FBI, they now do 2 things. They do, I remember when the order came down to vetting. which was to go through all the policy. And if it said, make sure whenever you break in that you have a good cover, you had to cut that out of a piece of paper. So thinking that there's ever a raid again, it couldn't be used against them, because that, a lot of the stuff that's going on now, you people wouldn't have known. Nobody, the citizens of the United States, wouldn't have known if the FBI did not raid. It'd still be going on even heavier. Anyway, until some of the policy looked like nothing but holes in it, because that's Guardian's office policy. The average Scientologist doesn't see any of this. In fact, there are people in the Guardian's office that don't see it. The intelligence people see it all. The top people in the GO see it. But some of the newer, especially since '76, there's the eyes-only operation. Some of the people, like in the PR section, the guys that will come and talk to the mayor, the young fellow who comes and talks to the mayor, he himself probably really doesn't believe any of this did occur. And honestly, you know...
Mr. Alderbank, when every commissioner is finished questioning in a particular area, I'm not saying that you should discontinue your questioning. What I will do is introduce the policy into evidence as a written document of the Church of Scientology. And most of the policies, if not all, that are testified about, we have here, including, for instance, the fair game document, which we put on the easel. And we will introduce these policies. In some cases, we'll put them on the overhead projector as time allows. For instance, the policy dealing with framing and harassing, the actual drills the Guardian's office operative went through, as Mr. Walker knows, we'll be giving you the pieces of paper that GO used.
Now, let me mention something, all right, to show you how the tech fits into this.
And tech is technology.
Technology. And why I tell you that it's done in Clearwater, I'm sure. The tech is very guarded, and they're very proud of it. I've watched Guardian's office people sit during what they told me was reporter TRs. It was how to lie to a reporter.
Is that TR1? Routine 1?
Yeah, there's concourse routine that they give the public called TR0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. The Guardian's office has their own TRs that are used to lie to officials, to lie at hearings, to lie to a reporter. I watched them actually drill. I watched Chuck Reese, you know, say to Madam Reese, and his job was to act like a reporter, which they thought was insane. You know, a reporter would go, all right, we know that you're connected with the criminals, and we know that you're not a religion. Isn't that true? And Madam Reese would have to sit there and say, we are an applied religious philosophy. We, whatever the scenario dictates. Yeah, whatever the, and if she flinched or broke up or started to feel bad, he would flunk her. She had to do it until she could do it like that.
Mr. Flynn, do you have a copy of that training routine that teaches that Scientologists go through to lie to government officials, the press, the DA, whatever group is?
Yes, we do.
Would you enter that into evidence?
If you'd like to have it now, what I was going to do is, in order to create some orderliness...
I'd rather we create orderliness and keep order, and I'd rather you just ask questions, and then he will have certain things he will present in his orderly way, rather not have a hodgepodge of information that we can't keep track of or control.
What I'm a little bit concerned about is there's so many documents and interrupting the flow of the testimony, so if witnesses can get most of the testimony.
Exactly, and
we'll
the chair is running the meeting too, I might add.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
All right, now, so what you're establishing is that there are training routines that you go through, or procedures, policies that you follow that teach you how to lie under oath.
Right.
And this is commonly done.
In the Guardian's office, yes. Not among normal Scientologists, no.
You talk about casing and burglary and criminal activities. Were you taught how to do this? I know that you said that you were a casino person, that you were well educated, and now looking back, you never would have thought you had done that. Without the policies that were written down, would you have committed the criminal acts or participated in them that you say you have?
That's a very good question, really good. Absolutely not. I'm not going to... I grew up in New York City. I was a pool player. I'm a guy of the streets, you know, which is why they're interested in me. I was a casino executive. I'm not, let's say I'm not a virgin. If Chuck Reese or some Guardian's office guy wanted to do some things on his own, there's no way I would do it. This came from Hubbard, written, shown to me. At that time, I was proud to. I thought it was technology to destroy you people and let Scientology clear the planet.
How did you learn to case a building or burglarize then?
Well, Chuck Reese told me to go down there. I was to first walk around the place and look for anybody that was suspicious or thing, and I came back to see him. Then I was asked to go into the Better Business Bureau and ask them for, I forget about something else, and I was to use that. And it's very clever because they would think of the thing I was asking for, like let's say popcorn company. Ask lots of questions about the popcorn company, and then just gradually say, oh yeah, I have a friend of mine in Scientology. Do you know anything about that? And to see what he said. Then while I was there, I was to memorize the place, where the files were and stuff, and bring that back to him.
So you were told by a superior of this group, Scientology, how to commit criminal acts, case a joint, and then participate in it.
Right.
Were you aware at any time that there was a policy or is a policy that tells you how to burglarize?
No, I mean, I'm sure there is. I did not myself see it.
Okay, on to the auditing. You said that you came in and being a casino executive, you understand risk, considerations, getting something back for your money. Now, you said you spent $35,000 to $40,000 in this organization, which is your choice. But were you given any guarantees? There must have been some consideration. Did they tell you that specifically auditing was scientific, auditing would cure your back ailments, auditing would cure Ed Walter's stomach ailments? Did they say that, and based on that, did you give them money?
Absolutely. Not only did they tell me that it would do all that, I was then trained to do that to others.
What were you trained to do?
A registrar, a person who signs people up for auditing, is trained to find out their illnesses, ailments. It's called their ruin. Ruin meaning what they think is ruining them. And then we are told to tell them we can handle that. We have the technology to do so.
So I come in and I'm having migraine headaches. What do you do? I have $40,000.
I would say questions like you say, Mr. Colvin, so you have migraine headaches. It sort of hurts your job? Yes. Or is it making you worse in life? Yeah. Would you say it's making you more able or less able? Or less able? In other words, is this the thing that's stopping you from being all the things you want to be? Yes. And if you did not have migraine headaches, would you be a better, stronger, more able person? And the person say yes. Well, we have the technology to handle that. And it even goes further than that. I would, by listening to you, find out if you were medically inclined. I'd move you into Dianetics. If you wanted to become spiritually inclined or do super tricks like walk on the water and all this stuff, then I would move you into Scientology. What
you're telling me then, and I don't want to paraphrase you, but you just told me that if I had a large sum of money, you would guarantee me as a policy, and they taught you to do this, you would guarantee me that my ills would be cured?
Absolutely. The exact word is handled.
Handled. And if I was medical of the mind, you would tell me that it was a technology or something based on scientific proof.
Right.
If I was religious in nature, you would tell me anything that I want to hear. Is that what you're telling me?
Right. Yeah.
And you did this.
Right.
And you did it as one
many times.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, it's one of the reasons I'm here. I personally have brought hundreds into Scientology. I mean, I'm not very proud of what I did. Some of them are still in and not allowed to talk to me. If they see me, they have to walk down the other street because they'll be an enemy, et cetera, et cetera.
You keep talking about technology. What were you told when you entered Scientology? What is auditing?
I was told that auditing was the scientific practice that Hubbard had devised as a scientist and an engineer and a nuclear physicist. He had found the true cause of illness, and he could scientifically explain it, and if I took courses, I would learn it. He scientific explanation and theories concerning communication and the mind and the source of all aberration that's in the mind, and that by putting my hands by putting myself in the hands of an auditor, a Scientologist, he would ask me questions that would elicit answers from me, and this would scientifically handle my illnesses, and I would attain eventually clear.
So since you were technically oriented, they told you it was scientific?
Oh yeah, I wouldn't have.
And you gave $30,000 to $40,000 based on this claim?
Yes.
Now, I don't understand it. Why did you believe it? Why did you believe Mr. Hubbard's auditing or Scientology auditing would cure your ills? You said they guaranteed...
You're talking about a belief, sir?
No, I'm talking about a guaranteed contract. He's saying auditing guaranteed. He paid money for it.
What did you rely on? What representation did you specifically rely on as a matter of fact, or observable fact?
What did you rely on for that? What did you rely on?
Take the next course.
To take the next course, and what did you rely on to give
I relied
$40,000? What
I
fact?
relied on what they told me, that L. Ron Hubbard was a nuclear physicist, an engineer, a scientist, doctor of philosophy, who had studied extensively the mind and the source of aberration and illness, and that if I learned this technology and practiced it, I would become clear, free of all illness, etc., and that if I took the courses to train how to do this, I could do this to others. And I did it.
So they represented to you, and the reason you paid is because they claimed that someone had devised this with research that had numerous philosophical and scientific degrees.
Right.
Would you have paid $40,000 if this wasn't the case?
Absolutely not.
Excuse me, I'd like to get Mr. Burfield to get a chance to speak too, because we are running out of time, and I want to give everyone equal time, and
I'm sorry.
So, Mr. Burfield, if you don't mind yielding.
Just one more question. As a member of the commission, you said that they would try to come between us. Spread rumors so that perhaps I would be upset at Mrs. Garvey, they would find what she wants to hear, or that Mr. Hatch would become upset at me.
Dead aging operations, yes.
Is this done throughout
Yes.
Scientology?
Yes, and all Guardian's Office activities, yes.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Burfield.
Mr. Burfield.
Mr. Walters, if I understand your testimony thus far, you've admitted or stated that you've lied, cheated, stolen, just about committed every crime.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
Short of murder. We appreciate your coming here today, but the question that goes through my mind is, why could we now take what you're telling us as being the truth?
It's a good question. All I can tell you is what I know to be true.
That's really the truth.
And I know that it's very unbelievable.
Yes.
I feel like the guy, if one of Jones's people had spoke up, he would have looked as much as like a fool as I am. I mean, only later did you find out he was homosexual, criminal, all this stuff. Well, I'm in the same boat. And luckily, Scientologists are leaving now. The fear of the Guardian's Office is starting to drop, and more are going to speak up.
There's a couple of basic questions, but they encompass quite a bit of territory. And one is, you make reference to certain situations, but can you be more specific as to time and place? You make reference to a legislator, you make reference to this young lady that planted dope. I guess what I'm saying as an adversary, I could look at that and say, well, you could come in here and bring up any story you wanted to and tell us that.
It's true.
What do we have, or what can we look at, or who else can we call into this hearing to substantiate what you're telling us?
Well, I think you're going to hear some people. There are documents that are available that will verify everything I'm saying. There are others that will verify by what I'm saying, and then you'll judge for yourselves.
I may just interject. What may be helpful is a continuous series of questions about a specific event in a specific time or place and a particular act. That may be very helpful.
Okay, well, I'm going to come to that, Counsel. There's one other thing that I'm not too sure about. You keep talking about policy, and like any corporate policy, how does one know that it's adhered to or condoned all the way up and down the line, that some zealot person somewhere down the line just doesn't say, gee, I'm going to make a name for myself in Scientology and I'm going to do this, and they do go off half-cocked, and the Scientologists did not, in fact, condone it?
Well, I'm familiar with the top officials of the church. I know some of the 11 that have been indicted and convicted, and they're the ones intimately involved in this, and the people that I was involved took orders from them. And these people, like Bruce Raymond, worked directly for L. Ron Hubbard. I mean, how high do you... I mean, Scientology would like to say that individuals did this on its own, but I can tell you, you are taught quickly. You do not do anything, unless you see it in writing by L. Ron Hubbard.
Okay, I'm going to come back to Counsel's point there and ask you to give me a specific to walk through that, but I have another question here. Mr. Calderbank did an excellent job in asking about you signing up for these courses and what they represented to you. When you signed up for them, was there any disclaimer or anything like that? Did you sign any waivers or anything along that line? Or they just said, we're going to cure your illness, bam?
Well, it's not like that. It's more like I did with Mr. Calderbank. You find out what's wrong with you, and you say, yes, we can handle that. We have the technology to totally handle that.
But you don't sign any waivers against Scientology?
Well, it all depends what year. See, Scientology puts out policy related to the latest thing that the country investigates. In the early days, no. Then when the government started looking into the nonprofit status, they changed the word from payment to donation, because donation sounded more like a church. Then in the later years, they started just exactly that thing. The Better Business Bureau and government and city officials wanted to know. People were complaining that they spent thousands and thousands and never got any ill and couldn't get their money back. So now you had to sign a thing saying that, I know it sounds weird, that you're getting auditing, but Scientology has nothing to do with it. I know this sounds great. And that when you sign your story at the end, you actually sign a thing that L. Ron Hubbard has nothing to do with what you did, and that Scientology is not held in any way responsible for whatever occurred. But you were told to do this, and if you don't do it, you don't go to your next step.
Along this line, the books and the courses that you're talking about, do you know firsthand whether they are being taught here in Clearwater, and the books can be purchased here in Clearwater?
All the books can be purchased here in Clearwater. All of the policy is here in Clearwater, and the highest GO covert activity and policy is here in Clearwater. Although I would bet it's very safe, or it's not where I think you would find it. I mean, they're not dumb.
Coming back to one thing, if we could you walk us through, and this is the reason for asking counsel earlier whether you had any immunity on this, a particular criminal event that you may have been involved in personally and you knew firsthand knowledge of?
All right. Latest flat, meaning, trouble going on in the Guardian's office, was that the mental health people in Las Vegas were meeting, talking about doing something about Scientology.
This would be during what year? Can you give us some...
Oh, this was, I would say, in 1972, in late 1972. Chuck Reese, from his folders, he has folders on most of the city officials and the public people. He had been following these people, and he knew that they met. It was first public, and then they were going to hold closed conferences at Rose de Lima Hospital in Henderson, Nevada, which is about 30 miles outside of Las Vegas. It's just, an hour's drive. Chuck Reese, through orders from Los Angeles Guardian's Office, was told to go there and to bug those meetings and get all the evidence that they could.
Excuse me, but you knew this firsthand.
He told it to me. He said, I'll tell you exactly how it is. He called me in, sat down and said, Eddie, listen, I got a new ops. Ops means operations. New ops from L.A. They're holding, now they're going to hold closed meetings, these suppressors. And they're going to meet at the Rose de Lima Hospital, which is a hospital run by the nuns in Henderson. They're going to hold their meetings there, closed meetings. And we've got to go up and case the place and plant some bugs to listen on our meetings. And so I went with him to Rose de Lima Hospital 2 or 3 days before this. We had a whole plan of going in and pretending to be sick, just to, to get in the hospital. It turned out we didn't need any of it. You walk right through the place. It was on the ground floor. If I remember, you walk in, you walk to the right all the way down. It was a large meeting office with a large table in it with a whole bunch of chairs around it. And Chuck Reese planted a tape recording device. In those days, tape recordings, even small ones, were very big, with tape and stuff right under the table. I left with him. We went back to Las Vegas. I told my wife about it, and said things are getting hairy again. Hairy meaning there's a new flat, and the GO tech is going in, and man, I can't leave the casino and end up in something worse than the casino, but I want to do whatever it is for Scientology. We talked it over, and we thought that was to help him in any way, but not get directly involved. So from that day, I didn't go back with him again. But I was in the office many times when he was typing up all the minutes or the conversations of the meeting of all the commissioners and city officials, and they would laugh about it, because they take what you guys say as very funny, and
Sometimes it is.
yeah, and they sent all this to the Las Vegas Guardian's office, the United States Guardian's office in Los Angeles.
One other thing that Mr. Colabank hit on, do you have any first-hand knowledge of somebody, I would call it kidnapping or holding or retaining somebody against their will? By first-hand, that you knew the person, you were there, you saw it happen, it wasn't that somebody told you it happened.
Yeah. Oh, in ethics, I've been personally involved in probably 14 to 15 of them, where some local PC online, meaning a person getting auditing, brand new. He's in the early stage of he's not totally brainwashed, but he's still into wanting to handle whatever illness he has. They haven't made him a soldier of Hubbard yet. All right, he's having trouble with his family, and ethics is having trouble with him. They come to me because I'm a high technical person to use mental tech on him to and ethics would hold him in a room, and they hold him there and do not let him out of the building for sometimes hours, sometimes days. They hold him there until he is handleable, meaning he is quieted down, subdued, given some counseling, designed to do, I've done it myself, to do two things. One, to make him feel bad and give up his, why he is attacking the organization. That's called security checking. Two is to find out who he's been talking to, and doing that thing, you find out who his parents have been talking to, and what lawyer they probably were going to go, and that evidence goes directly to the Guardian's office to be handled as I spoke of. I participated in quite a few of them.
Do you know firsthand where any of this has ever happened in Clearwater?
Well, not being here at Clearwater, I can't say that. I've spoken to people who have been to Clearwater who have spent $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 and still sick, still ill, and defrauded. But not being here, I never did services at Clearwater.
I don't mean to sound critical, but you sound like a man that's what I used to call streetwise. And if you are streetwise, in your own mind, you did not think you were committing a crime when you were doing all these things?
It's a good question. Why would Eddie Walters do that if I'm so? One, I was in the casinos all my life. I started out in the pool rooms, but I went to school and then I went into the casinos. So I was like what you call streetwise. I was at that time in my life looking for a better way of life. I wanted a more moral way of life. Working the casinos, to be frank with you, is not the most moral thing you can do. It's not as bad as you might read, you know, but it's not the most fulfilling thing you do. I was just right at that time in my life when I was looking for a better way of life. I wanted to sort of, how could I help my fellow man? And at the same time, I want to be safe. So I was just right at the time. And I was told Hubbard had the technology to help his fellow man. And I'll tell you, quite frankly, I was glad to do it. I'll tell you, the original talks you get would appeal to your son if you had one or daughter. They don't get the bad people, I'm telling you. They get the good people. These kids on staff are not guerrillas. That's the GO. The average kid on staff is working over at Fort Harrison 14 hours a day for nothing. He's a hard-working young man trying to help his fellow man.
If you had to define yourself in, let's use a corporate organization, and using Mr. Hubbard as the president of that organization, where would you put yourself in that chain of command?
In the chain of command, I would be in the... If it was a business organization, I would be in the product division, meaning having to do with dispensing of the sales of the product. And I would be probably like a chief technician of that. I would probably be director of production, if you were taking a business organization.
So you would have knowledge as to their, let's call it marketing and the way they paid their bills?
That's right.
There's been a lot of testimony about dollars here. How did these young people pay their bills? Was there promissory notes, security agreements, or anything like that ever signed?
On staff or public?
No,
I'll explain both.
Explain the freeloader's debt.
A freeloader's debt?
And I think that's what he's getting
A
at.
staff member comes in, starts out like I did. They tried to get me on staff many times, officially on staff, but because I was made an outside intelligence agent, I didn't go on staff. You see that? So a person will go on staff, and they say, you realize you don't have to pay to get your auditing. You can become one of Ron's people, and we will give you all this. Well, man, for a young kid who doesn't have a job, doesn't have any money, it sounds very good. He slowly gets in, and the auditing he gets is all invoiced to him. Meaning, every time he gets a session from somebody like me, he is charged for that at the highest rates there are, and he's charged fully. And this keeps adding up. He is told that if he ever leaves, he has to pay all this. In fact, he has to pay this plus penalties. That's just financial. That has nothing to do with fair game or R245 and all that. Just financially, he is told that he has a freeloader's debt, meaning you came in here and freeloaded off of us. We treated you nicely. All you did was work 14 hours a day, and now you want to leave? Well, we're going to charge you for all of that. They'll even charge him for him when he washed the floor. I mean, they will hit him with the biggest bill he can get. It's technically done to make sure that he does not go back into society. So he gets a freeloader's debt. And I know many, many people. I know a person in Las Vegas who left out. They handled him technically, made him feel bad and repent. He paid them close to $30,000 just to get back in. And there are people all over the United States, especially people who have been to Clearwater, who are now all over the United States paying Fort Harrison money. So if they pay all the freeloaders debt, they might be allowed to come back here.
Let's stay with that point a minute. If I understand you correctly, there have been people that have been in Clearwater operating under this freeloader's debt. Are you personally aware of these people?
Yes, I know some.
And you do know that they work here under these conditions?
Oh, yes.
And that they owe the church, the Scientologist, this money?
Yes.
You talked with them on that?
Yes. I believe, I don't know everything that's happening here, I believe you might even meet one or two. I'm not telling you.
What did he say?
I know what I'm saying to you is, it's hard to believe. But I just happen to be the lead-off witness, and I know it sounds a little nutty.
There are a couple just... I'll answer one last question.
Great deal of evidence on those conditions.
If I'm lying, I'll tell you this, Mr. Burfield. If I'm lying, you'll know in the last 4 days.
There are a couple other names I have down here, a Cooper, a Don Cooper, and a Broderick.
Yeah.
How do they fit in the ballgame?
Nice people that you got here in Clearwater. No, I shouldn't say that. Let me give you an example of how the tech works. I leave the church, right? I go to the FBI. A lot of Scientologists around me because I was looked up to and respected. Most of the OTs and Scientologists around me all immediately left too. Because we would all talk and we knew this thing was getting psychotic. Don Cooper would come around us every day and, help us in any way he could, this is terrible. Well, I wondered why he didn't want to go to the FBI's office, but we thought, he said he was scared, and he was with us day and night. He would come into my home, and we would talk and laugh, because as silly as it sounds, I feel a lot better now. When we first came out, he was scared for our lives, and if we didn't laugh, we would have cried. It's that type of thing. He would laugh with us. So this went along, then finally we got a hold of some lawyers, Mr. Flynn here, and we felt that eventually this will come to the public what needs to be done. Now what exactly happened with Cooper? So two people also fed up with things being done against me. See, while I'm outside now, the technology, the operations are starting against me. Follow me, harass me. One of the girls leaves the guardian's office because she knew Eddie Walters to be a decent guy. He may not agree with everything we're doing, but he's a decent guy. They're painting me as Zeno, and I'm the implanter, and I'm evil, and I'm criminal, and I'm no good, and I'm out to destroy religions, and I'm connected to the FBI and Interpol, all this nonsense. And they were asking her to do things that she didn't feel good about. She left, came to me, and you know what she told me? Eddie, you got plants on you. I said, no, listen, I got my friends, and I'll say anything I want to my friends. It's Eddie. Hey, this guy comes back with stories and weird, he says, and he described them to him. It was Don Cooper. We have since found out, well, I'll give you an example. I just had a deposition in the lawyers, they say they're suing me. They do depositions, which really is to find out what I know. They do depositions. Their lawyer turns up to have stuff that Don Cooper has stolen from my home. They turned him into, from a Scientologist, into an intelligence agent. And he was a nice guy. We were with him every day. He is right now in Clearwater, receiving, I believe, further training. We know a person in Las Vegas that talked to him a few months ago.
About Bill Broderick, since you're on that.
A girl, Tanya Burden, her name is. She used to be an aide to Ron Hubbard, dress him, take care of him. She left, and obviously can tell the inside story on Hubbard. She was again harassed, all the things I went through. When this guardian's office girl left, should I tell him the name?
She'll be testified. Her name is Janie Peterson.
All right, when she left, she told us the operations against me and against Tanya Burden. And we said, but Tanya Burden has a lawsuit. Eddie, they're planning a person in her apartment. They have a person next to her they brought in from Phoenix. They have a guy who's with her all the time. In fact, he's with you guys. I said, who is it? Bill Broderick. And she's right. Bill Broderick used to come around. His job was to get everything they could on Tanya Burden, create dead agenting, like tell me that Tanya Burden didn't like me, or I didn't, start all this stuff. I believe he was in Clearwater at the moment. I saw his name in a publication where he had just completed a course here, so he's receiving further training to go out and...
I thought ask questions all over this gentleman. If I understand your testimony correctly, then the courses that are being presented in Clearwater now, in your estimation, there's misrepresentation in the presenting of those courses. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
And then there's fraud and deceit the further you get into these courses. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to break in a minute, and may your witness return at 2, just in case we'd like to ask him any more questions.
He'll be available as long as the commission wishes.
All right, I just have one quickie. I've heard that they've changed their spots. They're no longer doing what they did do, that now they're good guys and they denounce or renounce the leaders that have been convicted. To your knowledge, is that true? Have they changed their spots, and are they now a different organization they were in 1979?
No, they're not different. The evidence is Don Cooper, the things he's been doing to me just recently. They will have a PR thing put out by Artie Marin and Heber Jens that will put a new face on it. But I guarantee you, covert operations will in fact increase.
Decrease or increase?
Increase.
Increase.
When I went to the FBI, the normal person like you might say, well, I guess they won't bother you now. That's when Cooper was put on me. It increases. In fact, the increased surveillance or harassment of me will start even more now.
All right, Mr. Shoemaker has one quick question, then we'll take a break.
Mr. Walters, if I might ask, during the break, if you would have a chance, are you familiar with this Introduction to Scientology Ethics book?
I've studied it thoroughly.
If you might look at this relating to the high crimes section of